I think you should leave, Olivia. He said it at 7:45 in the morning in her kitchen, while she stood there holding a mug in each hand. He hadn't knocked. He'd used his key, and he'd held the door open for the woman behind him. 27 years old, smiling, wearing Olivia's coat. "She's an upgrade," Daniel Carter said. Olivia asked his girlfriend for a pen. She signed. She packed one suitcase and put her own keys in her husband's hand and said thank you. 56 minutes later, a lawyer called and told her she owned the building he'd just thrown her out of. Before we go on, please subscribe to the channel and stay with the story all the way to the end, because the ending is not what you think. And comment the name of the city you are watching from right now, so I can see how far this story travels. The day he threw away the woman who owned everything. Olivia Bennett had made coffee for 2 that morning. That was the part she would remember later. Not the words, not the coat, the coffee. She had heard his car in the garage at 7:30, 15 minutes earlier than he had come home in 3 years, and something in her chest had lifted like a bird. She had thought he is coming home early because he wants to talk. She had thought maybe he finally noticed. She had pulled 2 mugs down from the shelf, the blue one for him, the chipped white one for her because she always took the broken one and never once thought that meant anything. Then the door opened, and Olivia understood that she had been wrong about almost everything. Daniel walked in first. Behind him came a woman. Young, maybe 27. Dark hair, expensive shoes, a face that had never had to apologize for anything. And a coat. A camel-colored coat with brass buttons and a stitched lining, the kind of coat you only buy once in your life. Olivia's coat. Olivia stood very still with a coffee mug in each hand. "Daniel," she said. "Who is this?" Daniel set his suitcase down on the floor. Not her suitcase. His. He did not look at her when he answered. "This is Madison," he said. "Madison Blake. She works with me." Madison put out her hand. Olivia looked at the hand. She looked at the coat. She did not move. "That's my coat," Olivia said. The room got very quiet. Madison's hand dropped. She glanced at Daniel, and it was the fastest, smallest look, but Olivia caught it, and she would think about it for years afterward. Because it was not the look of a stranger. It was the look of a woman checking in with a man she already knew how to check in with. "Daniel said it was in the donation bag," Madison said. "It was in my closet," Olivia said. "Olivia." Daniel's voice had that tired sound, the one he used on the phone with contractors. "Don't do this." "Do what?" Olivia said. "Ask a question in my own kitchen." "It's a coat. It's my grandmother's coat." Something flickered across Daniel's face then. Not guilt, impatience. He walked past her, past both mugs, and he opened the refrigerator like it was any other Tuesday, and he took out a bottle of water and drank half of it standing up. Then he said it. "I think you should leave." Olivia laughed. She actually laughed one short breath of a laugh because it was so absurd. She assumed she had misheard. "Leave," she repeated. "Leave the room. Leave the apartment." The mug in her left hand tilted. Coffee ran over her fingers and onto the floor, and she did not feel it. "Daniel." "I've thought about this for a long time," he said. "Months. This isn't sudden. You brought her here. Olivia. You brought her into our home and you're telling me to leave." "It's not working," Daniel said. "It hasn't been working. You know that." "I don't know that," Olivia said. "You never told me that. You told me you were busy. You told me the Kensington deal was eating you alive. You told me to be patient. I have been patient for 4 years, Daniel. 4 years. And I appreciate it. You appreciate it." Olivia put the mugs down on the counter because her hands had started shaking and she did not want him to see. Madison was still standing by the door, in the coat, looking at the ceiling, the windows, the crown molding with the calm interest of a woman at an open house. "Could she leave?" Olivia said quietly. "Could you please ask her to leave while we talk?" "She's not leaving," Daniel said. "Daniel. She lives here now." And there it was. Olivia felt the floor go strange under her feet, the way it goes when an elevator stops too fast. "She lives here. As of today." "As of today," Olivia repeated. "You decided that. Alone. In a home I have cooked in every night for 6 years, you decided who lives here, and I found out at 7:45 in the morning while I was making you coffee. See, this is what I mean, Daniel said. This tone. What tone? The professor thing, the cross-examination. I asked you a question, Daniel. You always ask questions. He set the water bottle down hard. You know what I need? I need someone who moves, who acts, who doesn't analyze everything to death. Do you understand that I have been carrying this entire company on my back while you sit in this apartment reading? Olivia stared at him. I edited your investor deck, she said. Olivia. Every page, every quarter, for 6 years. That's not. I rewrote your Series A pitch at 2 in the morning, the night before you presented it. You cried in this kitchen, Daniel. You put your head on this counter and you cried, and you said you couldn't do it, and I sat with you until 4. That was a long time ago. It was 5 years ago. Exactly. He said it like she had proved his point. 5 years ago. What have you done since then? The silence after that was so complete that Olivia could hear the refrigerator humming. Madison shifted her weight by the door. Olivia turned her head slowly and looked at her husband, and for the first time in 9 years, she looked at him the way she used to look at a student's argument, structurally, coldly, line by line, and she found the hole in it immediately. You didn't ask what I've done, she said. You never once asked. Here we go. You never asked who introduced you to Harold Reese. Daniel stopped, just for a second, but he stopped. What? Harold Reese, Olivia said. Your first real investor, the man whose name is on your wall. Who introduced you to him, Daniel? We met at a conference. You met him at a dinner you were not invited to. I brought you. That's not. He knew my grandmother, Olivia said. He asked about her health and you didn't even hear the question because you were rehearsing your pitch under your breath. Daniel's jaw moved. That's ancient history. It's 5 years of my life. It's a dinner. It's my life, Daniel. Madison spoke for the first time then, and her voice was pleasant, and that was somehow the worst part. Maybe I should give you two some space, she said. No, Daniel said. Stay. He said it fast. Too fast. And Olivia heard something in it that made her stomach turn over, because it was not the voice of a man asserting himself. It was the voice of a man who was afraid of being left alone with his own wife. You're scared of me, Olivia said slowly. Don't be ridiculous. You brought her as a shield. Olivia, you couldn't say this to me alone. 9 years and you couldn't sit at this table and say it to my face without an audience. That's not what this is. Then ask her to wait in the car. Daniel did not move, neither did Madison. And in that non-movement, Olivia understood everything she needed to understand about the man she had married. She walked to the sink. She turned on the water. She washed the coffee off her fingers slowly, deliberately, because she needed 10 seconds where nobody could see her face. Behind her, Daniel exhaled. Look, he said, and his voice changed, went softer, went reasonable, and Olivia knew this voice too. This was the closing voice, the one he used on nervous investors. Olivia, you are a wonderful person. Everyone loves you. My mother loves you. Don't. But you stopped growing. Olivia turned off the water. You stopped growing, Daniel said again, like a man delivering a diagnosis he was proud of. You left the university. You said you wanted to. Fine. But then you just stayed. You stayed still, and I kept moving, and now there's this gap, and I can't cross it anymore, and I'm not going to spend the rest of my life pretending I don't see it. You asked me to leave the university. I never. You sat on that couch, Olivia said, on that exact couch, and you said, if you take the sabbatical, I can get this company off the ground in 18 months. 18 months, Olivia. That's what you said. Then you can go back. You could have gone back. You told me the timing was bad. Every year, every single year, Daniel, the timing was bad. You're an adult, he said. You made your own choices. Olivia laughed again. It came out cracked. You know what's remarkable, she said. You actually believe that. Madison understands business, Daniel said. There it was. The pivot. Excuse me. She has connections. She understands the world I'm in. She belongs beside me, Olivia. That's not an insult. It's just reality. Say the word, Olivia said. What? You've been circling it for 10 minutes. Say it. Daniel's mouth tightened, and then he said it. She's an upgrade. The apartment was very warm and very quiet. Somewhere far below on Michigan Avenue, a horn sounded. Madison had the grace to look at the floor. Not much grace, but some. Olivia did not cry. That surprised her later when she thought about it in the dark. She did not cry, and she did not scream, and she did not throw the mug. She just felt something shift deep the way a building settles. An upgrade, she said. I didn't mean it like... You meant it exactly like that. Olivia. You practiced that word, she said. Didn't you? In the car. You practiced saying it out loud because you liked how it sounded. Daniel's ears went red. He always did that. 9 years, and his ears still gave him away, and he had never once known it, and she had never told him, because she had loved it once, that small, honest thing his body did when he lied. That's insane, he said. Madison, Olivia said without turning. Did he practice it? Madison did not answer, which was an answer. Daniel reached down and picked up a folder from the top of his suitcase. He held it out. Olivia looked at it. What is that? It's fair, Daniel said. I want you to know that up front. My attorney says it's more than fair. Your attorney. I've had counsel for a while now. How long is a while? Olivia. How long, Daniel? He hesitated. January, he said. It was March. Olivia felt her legs go strange again. January. He had hired a divorce attorney in January. In January, she had made him soup for a week when he had the flu. In January, he had put his head on her shoulder in the back of a taxi and said, I don't know what I'd do without you. You were sick, she said. In January, you had a fever of 102, and I slept on the floor next to the bed. Don't do that. I'm not doing anything. I'm remembering. That's not fair. That's not fair, Olivia repeated softly. Daniel, do you hear yourself? He shook the folder at her. Just look at it. She took it. She opened it right there, standing at the counter with the coffee going cold in 2 mugs behind her, and she read it the way she had read every contract that man had ever signed, fast precise, the professor's eye moving down the page, and she found it in 90 seconds. Page 4. She looked up. You're keeping the apartment. I need a base of operations. You are keeping the apartment, Olivia said, and giving me a settlement that pays out over 11 years. It's structured. That's normal. Ask anyone. You're giving me an allowance. I'm taking care of you, Daniel said. That's what this is. Nobody's throwing you into the street, Olivia. You'll be taken care of. And that was the sentence. Not the coat. Not the word upgrade. Not even Madison standing there in her grandmother's camel coat. That sentence. You'll be taken care of. Because underneath every syllable of it was the truth of how he saw her and had always seen her and would always have seen her for another 10 years, another 20, until she was 60, and grateful. A problem, a cost line, a thing to be handled. He did not think she had anything. He did not think she was anything. Olivia set the folder down on the counter very gently. Do you have a pen? She said. Daniel blinked. What? A pen, Daniel. Do you have one? Olivia, you should have a lawyer look at. You just told me it was fair. It is fair, but then give me a pen. He stared at her, and Olivia watched with a kind of terrible clarity as the whole scene he had planned collapsed in his head. Because he had planned this, she could see it. He had rehearsed the fight. He had prepared for tears, for pleading for her hands on his shirt, for the part where she said please, and he got to be gentle and firm and heroic about it. He had probably told Madison about it in the car. She'll cry. She always cries. It's going to be ugly. Just stay behind me. And instead, his wife was asking for a pen. Madison found one in her purse. She held it out, and Olivia took it from her hand, and their fingers touched, and Madison flinched. Olivia signed on page 9. She signed on page 11. She initialed the corners. Her handwriting did not shake. It was the same handwriting that had graded 400 final exams a year for 11 years, small and level and legible. She closed the folder and slid it across the counter. Daniel did not pick it up. That's it, he said, that's it. You're not going to. To what? Olivia said. Beg, I thought. You thought I'd fight." He didn't answer. "You wanted me to fight," she said slowly, and the realization opened in her like cold water. "You wanted a scene, because then you'd get to be right. Then you'd get to tell people, 'God, you should have seen her. She lost it. I had no choice.' That's not. You needed me to be the villain, Daniel, because you can't live with being one." Madison shifted by the door again. Daniel's voice went up. "You know what, this is exactly the problem, right here. You do this thing where you make everything into a lecture." "Are you sure?" Olivia said. "What? Are you sure this is what you want?" She said it quietly. Not a threat, not even a plea, just a question, the last honest question of 9 years offered flat across a kitchen counter. And Daniel Carter, 38 years old, in a wool coat he had not paid for out of money he had not earned alone, looked at his wife and said, "Absolutely." Olivia nodded once. "Then congratulations." Daniel frowned. "For what?" "For showing me who you are," she said, "before I gave you another decade." Something went across his face then. For 1/2 of 1 second, something real. A crack. And Olivia saw it. And she knew with absolute certainty that some part of Daniel Carter had just understood that he had made a mistake he did not yet have the size to comprehend. Then it closed, and he said, "Don't be dramatic." Olivia walked past him. She walked past Madison, and she stopped, and she looked at the coat. "Take care of it," she said. "It's older than you." Madison's chin came up. "Excuse me. My grandmother wore that coat to my grandfather's funeral," Olivia said. "She stood in the rain in it for 2 hours. It's been rewoven twice. There's a mark inside the left pocket where she wrote his initials with a pen because she was afraid she'd forget the sound of his voice." Madison's hand went involuntarily to the left pocket. "I'm not," she said. "Daniel told me." "I know what Daniel told you," Olivia said, and she went upstairs. She heard them talking below her low, fast Madison's voice, sharp. Now Daniel's defensive. She could not hear the words. She did not need to. She had heard 9 years of that man's tone, and she knew what defensive sounded like coming up through a floor. In the bedroom, Olivia stood for a long moment and did nothing at all. Then she pulled a suitcase from the closet. 1 suitcase. She packed like a woman leaving a fire. 2 sweaters, 3 shirts, the gray dress she had worn to defend her dissertation, underwear, her reading glasses, a photograph in a wooden frame, her mother and her grandmother on a porch in 1994, both of them laughing at something outside the picture. She did not take jewelry. She did not take the wedding album. She stopped once at the closet door and looked at the row of his shirts, and she thought about how many of them she had picked up off the floor, and she felt nothing, and that nothing frightened her more than any grief would have. Then she knelt down and pulled up the loose board under the closet shelf. The box was still there. Old wood, dark, smaller than a shoebox, a brass clasp gone green with age. Olivia sat back on her heels with it in her lap. Inside, wrapped in tissue, was an envelope, yellowed, sealed, untouched for 11 years. On the front, in her grandmother's slanted, elegant, unhurried handwriting, was 1 sentence. "Open this when someone makes you believe you have nothing." Olivia's breath caught. She had put that box under that board the week she married Daniel. She had never told him it existed. Not because she was hiding it, because he had never asked her a single question about her family that did not begin with the words, "So is there." She had been 11 years old, the day her grandmother had made her promise not to open it early. "How will I know?" Olivia had asked. Had tea. And Evelyn Bennett had smiled and said, "Oh, sweetheart, you'll know. Somebody will look you right in the face and tell you you're worth nothing. And it will be somebody you love. That's how these things go." Olivia had laughed at her. Olivia was not laughing now. She put the envelope inside her coat. Her own coat. The cheap gray one from the outlet mall that Daniel had once told her looked practical. Then she carried the suitcase down the stairs. They were in the living room. Madison was sitting on the arm of the couch. Daniel was on his phone. He looked up. "That's it," he said again. "1 bag. That's it. You can send for the rest." "There is no rest," Olivia said. He didn't understand her. She could see it. He heard it as bitterness. He filed it away as bitterness, and it would take him a very long time and a great deal of money to learn what she had actually meant. At the door he said keys. Olivia stopped. What? The apartment keys. He held out his hand. Look, it's just cleaner, legally, my attorney said. Your attorney? Olivia, please don't make this. She put the keys in his palm. Then she said, and the car? Daniel's eyes went to the side, and Olivia knew. You already had it moved, she said. It's in the company name. You had it moved this morning. That's why you were early. You didn't come home early to talk. You came home early because the tow arrived at 7. It's a lease, Olivia. I drove that car for 6 years. I drove your mother to chemotherapy in that car, Daniel, every Thursday, for a year. Do you remember where you were on Thursdays? Daniel said nothing. Denver, Olivia said. You were in Denver. I was building something. So was I. She picked up her suitcase. At the elevator, her hands finally started to shake, and she pressed them flat against the wall until they stopped. Downstairs in the lobby, Arthur was at the desk. Arthur had been at that desk for 22 years. He was 71 years old, and he brought his own thermos, and he had never once in 6 years let Olivia carry a grocery bag by herself. He saw the suitcase. He came out from behind the desk so fast that his chair spun. Mrs. Bennet. It's fine, Arthur. Mrs. Bennet. He looked at her face, then at the suitcase, then at the elevator, and something in his expression changed, went hard in a way she had never seen. Is he up there? Arthur, is that woman up there? Olivia went very still. You've seen her. Arthur's mouth closed. Arthur, it's not my place. How many times? He looked at the floor. Arthur, how many times has she been in that building? And Arthur, who was 71 and who had a granddaughter Olivia's age and who had signed for every package Olivia had ever received, said quietly, Since November, ma'am. November. 4 months. 4 months of Thanksgiving. Of the Christmas party where Daniel had held her hand in front of his investors. Of New Year's when he had kissed her at midnight and said, This is our year. Olivia put her hand on the desk to steady herself. Ma'am, Arthur said. Ma'am, sit down, please, just for a minute. I'm all right. You are not all right. Arthur. And then the old man did something strange. He looked at the elevator again, and then he leaned in, and he lowered his voice, and he said, Mrs. Bennet, are you sure you want to be the one who leaves? Olivia looked up at him. What? Arthur's eyes moved just slightly toward the brass plaque on the lobby wall, the one that had been there since before he started, the one nobody ever read. Then he seemed to think better of it. Nothing, he said. Ma'am, it's nothing. Let me get you a cab. Arthur, what did you mean? Let me get you a cab, Mrs. Bennet. He held the door. Outside, the March wind came off the lake like it had a grudge. Olivia got into the cab, and the driver said, Where to? And she opened her mouth and realized with a lurch that she had no idea. 34 years old, 1 suitcase, no car, no keys, no job for 11 years. No apartment, no mother, no father, no grandmother left alive. Just drive, she said. Please, just drive. He drove. They went up Lake Shore, and the water was gray and enormous and indifferent, and Olivia Bennet watched the skyline slide past the window tower after tower after tower, and she thought about how a person can live inside a life for 9 years and never once look at the foundations. Her phone buzzed in her coat pocket. She thought for one humiliating half-second that it might be him. It was not him. It was a number she did not know with a 312 area code, and Olivia almost let it go, and afterward she would think about that almost for the rest of her life. How close she came, how thin the wire was. She answered, Hello, Miss Bennet, a woman's voice, older, calm, absolutely certain. Yes. My name is Victoria Reynolds. I'm an attorney. I've been trying to reach you. Olivia closed her eyes. Of course it was. Daniel's people already before the coffee was even cold. If you're calling about the divorce, she said, I already signed, whatever he told you to. There was a pause on the line, a long one. Miss Bennet, Victoria Reynolds said slowly, I'm not calling about a divorce. Then what? I've been trying to reach you. the woman said. For 11 years. Olivia opened her eyes. The taxi hit a pothole. Her suitcase shifted against her leg. I'm sorry, she said. I think you have the wrong person. My name is Olivia Carter. No, ma'am, Victoria Reynolds said. Your name is Olivia Evelyn Bennett. Your mother was Catherine. Your grandmother was Evelyn Rose Bennett. She died on the 16th of April, 11 years ago at 4 p.m, and I was standing at the foot of her bed. Olivia could not breathe. Who are you? I was your grandmother's attorney for 31 years, the woman said. Miss Bennett, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Are you somewhere you can talk? I'm in a cab. Where are you going? Olivia looked out the window at a city that had suddenly gone very strange. I don't know, she whispered. Miss Bennett? Victoria Reynolds's voice did not change, and somehow that steadiness was the most terrifying thing Olivia had ever heard. Your grandmother left instructions, very specific instructions. She told me I was not permitted to contact you unless one of two things happened. What things? The first was your 40th birthday. Olivia's mouth was dry. And the second, Victoria Reynolds said, was the day someone tried to put you out of a building. The cab kept moving. The towers kept going by. And in her coat pocket against her ribs, Olivia felt the sealed envelope her grandmother had written 11 years before. A man named Daniel Carter ever said the word upgrade in a kitchen on the 14th floor. Miss Bennett, the attorney said gently. Which building was it? Olivia heard herself say the address. And on the other end of the line, very quietly, Victoria Reynolds began to laugh. Not cruelly. The way you laugh when a woman you loved who has been dead for 11 years turns out to have been right about absolutely everything. Oh, Evelyn, she said, you magnificent woman. I don't understand, Olivia said. No, Victoria said. You don't. Not yet. Miss Bennett, I need you to tell your driver to turn around. Why? Because I'm at 200 South Wacker 22nd floor, and I have a file on my desk with your name on it that is 940 pages long. Olivia's hand went to her mouth. And Miss Bennett, Victoria Reynolds said, one more thing, before you come. What? The man who told you to leave this morning. Daniel. Yes. A pause. Did he tell you the apartment was his? Olivia stared at the back of the driver's seat. Yes, she said. And Victoria Reynolds said, then he has made the single most expensive mistake of his entire life. The driver's eyes came up in the mirror at 9:02. Ma'am, you said just drive. I changed my mind, Olivia said. 200 South Wacker. That's back the other way. I know. He made the turn at Grand, and Olivia sat with the phone still pressed to her ear, even though the call had ended because putting it down would mean deciding whether any of the last 90 seconds had actually happened. 940 pages, with her name on it. She looked down at her hands. There was still a faint brown ring on her knuckle where the coffee had run. At 9:19, the cab pulled up in front of a building she had walked past 100 times without once looking up. The lobby was all glass and cold stone, and the kind of quiet that costs money. Olivia stood in the middle of it with a suitcase in an outlet mall coat and felt every single person there decide what she was. The woman at the desk barely looked at her. Can I help you? I'm here for Victoria Reynolds. Do you have an appointment? I don't know, Olivia said. She called me. Name. Olivia opened her mouth to say Carter and stopped. 9 years. 9 years of saying that name at doctor's offices and dry cleaners and parent nights for other people's children. Bennett, she said. Olivia Bennett. The woman's hand stopped moving on the keyboard. She looked up. Actually looked for the first time. And something happened in her face that Olivia could not read at all. One moment, ma'am. She picked up the phone. She turned away. She said 11 words that Olivia could not hear. Then she hung up, and she came out from behind the desk and she said, Miss Bennett, I'll walk you up myself. That's not necessary. It's very necessary, ma'am. The elevator went up 22 floors without stopping once, and Olivia understood dimly that it had been keyed. At 9:26, the doors opened. The woman standing there was in her 60s, silver-haired in a navy suit that had been made for her body and no one else's, and she did not smile, and she did not rush forward, and she did not do a single one of the things people do. She just looked at Olivia's face for a long moment, and then her chin moved very slightly and she said, "You have her eyes. God Almighty, nobody told me you'd have her eyes." "Are you Victoria Reynolds?" "I am." "I don't understand what's happening." "I know," Victoria said. "Come with me, and give me the suitcase. I can carry it." "Miss Bennet." Victoria's hand closed around the handle anyway. "You have carried enough this morning. Let go." Olivia let go. The conference room had a table long enough to seat 20 and only 2 chairs pulled out. On the table was a file. Not a folder. A file. 4 boxes of it, stacked gray with a label on the side of each in the same slanted handwriting Olivia had seen on the envelope in her coat pocket 11 minutes ago. Bennet. O-E. Olivia stopped walking. "That's my grandmother's writing." "Yes. She wrote my name on those boxes." "She wrote your name on those boxes," Victoria said, "in the spring of the year she died. Sit down, Miss Bennet." "I'd rather stand." "You'd rather stand right now. In about 4 minutes you're going to wish you'd sat." Olivia sat. Victoria did not open the boxes. Not yet. She sat across the corner of the table close enough to touch, and she folded her hands and she said, "How much do you know about your grandmother?" "Everything," Olivia said. "She raised me." "Tell me." "Why?" "Because I need to hear what she gave you," Victoria said. "It matters. Tell me." Olivia's throat did something painful. "Evelyn Rose Bennet," she said. "She taught 4th grade for 36 years at a school on the west side. She had a blue Buick. She clipped coupons. She had a house in Oak Park with a porch that needed painting for as long as I was alive, and she never painted it because she said the wood liked being seen. She made me read out loud at the kitchen table every night until I was 14. She never had money. When my mother died, she took me in, and she worked another 6 years past retirement because there were 2 of us." Victoria was very still. "Is that all?" "That's all," Olivia said. "That's everything. That's my whole life." Victoria closed her eyes for a second. "She told me you'd say that," she said. "Word for word, almost. The porch. She said she'll tell you about the porch." "Miss Reynolds." "Victoria." "Victoria. Why am I here?" Victoria reached over and put her hand flat on the top box. At 9:34 in the morning, she said, "Because Evelyn Bennet never taught 4th grade for 36 years. She taught 4th grade for 9. Olivia said, "What?" 9 years, 1962 to 1971. She resigned in June of 71, 4 months after your grandfather died, because the school board would not give a widow a raise. And she decided, and I am quoting her directly here, that she was done asking men for permission. That's not true. In September of that year, Victoria said, she bought a 6-unit apartment building on Ashland with the entirety of your grandfather's death benefit, $11,000. She did the plumbing herself out of a library book. By 1974, she owned 4 buildings. By 1980, 19. Stop. By 1991, Miss Bennet, she owned more square footage in this city than any single individual outside of 2 families whose names are on the sides of towers. Olivia stood up. The chair went back into the wall behind her. "That's not true," she said. "That's not, you don't understand, we ate off a card table. We ate off a card table until I was 9 years old because the real one broke, and she said we'd get to it. I wore my cousin's shoes. I had a scholarship, Victoria. I had a full scholarship. I wrote the essay myself. I wrote about how we didn't have." Her voice broke apart. Victoria did not move. "Sit down, Olivia." Why would she do that? Sit down. Why would she do that? It came out of her like something torn, and it rang off the glass, and Olivia stood there in a conference room on the 22nd floor, with her hands shaking and her whole childhood coming apart in her chest. Victoria Reynolds waited. Then she said quietly, "Because she watched what money did to your mother." Olivia stopped breathing. "Sit down," Victoria said. "Please, I've been carrying this for 11 years, and I would like very much to put it down." Olivia sat. At 9:41, Victoria opened the first box. The photograph on top was black and white. A woman in her 30s in a plain coat standing on a sidewalk with her arms crossed, looking up at a building with an expression Olivia had seen exactly twice in her life, both times across a kitchen table, both times about her. "That's her," Olivia whispered. "1973. That's the day she closed on the third building." "She looks hungry," Victoria said. "Yes, she did. My mother," Victoria's hand paused. "Your mother," she said carefully, "found out when she was 19. Found out. Evelyn kept it from her the same way, same reason. Catherine found a bank statement in a drawer in 1986, and she never worked another day in her life. Not one, Olivia. She was a bright girl, brighter than bright, and she spent 11 years going to parties in Palm Beach with men who knew exactly what she was worth to the dollar, and she married 2 of them, and the second one is the reason." Victoria stopped. "Say it," Olivia said. "The second one is the reason your mother's car was on that road at 2 in the morning." The room was completely silent. Olivia put both hands flat on the table because the table was the only solid thing left in the world. "She never told me that," she said. "She said it was an accident." "It was an accident," Victoria said. "It was also a consequence. Your grandmother sat in my office 9 days after the funeral with you, asleep on the couch in the next room, 11 years old, and she said, 'Vic, I killed my daughter with a bank account, and I am not doing it twice.'" Olivia was crying now. She had not cried in the kitchen. She had not cried in the cab. She cried now silently with her hands flat on a conference table, and Victoria Reynolds did not hand her a tissue and did not say, there, and Olivia would love her forever for that. "So she lied to me," Olivia said, "my entire life." "No. She let me think we were poor. She let you think you were ordinary," Victoria said. "There is a difference, and it is the whole story. She wanted you to find out what you were made of before you found out what you were worth. Because once you know what you're worth, Olivia, you never find out the first thing. Ever. Your mother never did." "I could have." "You could have what?" "I could have not needed him," Olivia shouted. And there it was, out in the room, ugly and true. Victoria's eyes closed briefly. "There she is," she said softly. "I stayed," Olivia said. "Do you understand? I stayed because I had nothing. I left the university because he said 18 months, and I stayed after the 18 months, because what was I going to do at 32 with no savings and no publications and a gap on my resume? I stayed because I was afraid. Victoria, I was afraid of being poor. I have been afraid of being poor since I was 11 years old, and I ate off a card table." "I know. And it was a lie." "Yes. It was a lie." "Yes," Victoria said. "And this morning that lie is the only reason you found out who your husband is at 34 instead of at 54. Olivia sat back like she'd been struck. At 9:53, nobody in the room said anything at all. Then Victoria reached into the box and slid a single sheet across the table. "Number," she said. "You want it? Everyone wants it. Take it." Olivia looked down. It was a summary page. Assets, holdings, entities, a column of figures running down the right side, and at the bottom a line in bold. She read it. She read it again. Her lips moved. "That's a typo," she said. "It's not." "Victoria, that's a typo. There's too many." "It is not a typo." "Say it out loud," Olivia said. "Say it out loud because my eyes are lying to me." Victoria Reynolds looked her in the face and said, "As of the close of business yesterday, the consolidated value of Bennett Legacy Holdings and its subsidiaries is approximately $14 billion, and you, Olivia Evelyn Bennett, are the sole heir and controlling owner. You have been for 11 years. The clock on the wall made a small sound. 11 years, Olivia said. "Yes. I've been. Yes." "I clipped coupons," Olivia said. "Victoria, I clipped coupons last Sunday. I have a folder. In my purse. Right now. There's a folder in my purse with coupons in it." And then Olivia Bennett started to laugh, and the laugh went wrong halfway through and turned into something else, and she put her face in her hands and made a sound that Victoria Reynolds would remember for the rest of her career. Victoria let her. Then she said, "Look at me." Olivia looked up. There is more, Victoria said, and the more is worse, and I need you upright for it. Worse than $14 billion? Considerably. Victoria pulled a second document out of the box. She did not slide this one. She turned it around and pushed it across with 2 fingers slowly, the way you'd hand someone a knife. What is this? Olivia said. That's a property record. Read the address. Olivia read the address, and her whole body went cold, because it was her address. 14th floor, the kitchen with the 2 mugs, the closet with the loose board, the living room where a woman had sat on the arm of her couch in her grandmother's coat. No, Olivia said. Read the ownership line. Victoria. Read it out loud, Olivia. I want you to hear yourself say it. Olivia's voice came out as almost nothing. Bennett Legacy Holdings, she read. Acquired 1994. 1994, Victoria said. You were 2 years old. Your grandmother bought that building the year your mother brought you home. Every unit. The garage, the land under it. I lived there. You lived there because I put you there, Victoria said. The realtor who showed you that apartment when you were 25 years old worked for me. The rent you paid for the first 2 years was fake. It went into an account with your name on it. It's still there. Olivia looked up at her, wild. That's insane. That's Victoria that's insane. That was the instruction. Whose instruction? Whose do you think? Olivia sat with her hand over her mouth, and then at 10:06 in the morning she understood, and the understanding hit her so hard that she made a small noise. He threw me out, she whispered. Yes. He told me to leave. Yes. He stood in my kitchen and he took my keys. Olivia's hands were shaking. He held out his hand and he said, keys. It's cleaner legally, and I put them in his hand. Victoria. I put my own keys in his hand, and I said thank you. I think I actually said thank you. I said thank you to a man who was throwing me out of a building I own. Every unit, Victoria said, including the one he's standing in right now. Olivia stood up so fast the chair went over. She walked to the window. 22 floors down the city moved like it always moved, and Olivia Bennett looked out at it and started very quietly to shake. Arthur, she said, I'm sorry. The doorman, he's been there 22 years. He said something to me. He said, are you sure you want to be the one who leaves? He looked at the plaque, Victoria. There's a brass plaque in the lobby, and he looked at it. Victoria was quiet for a second. Then she said, what do you think it says? Olivia turned around. Say it. Building dedicated 1994, Victoria said. The Catherine, named for your mother. Arthur Reyes has known exactly who owns that building for 22 years, and he has been standing at that desk carrying your grandmother's photograph in his wallet. And this morning he watched a man take your keys, and he almost broke a promise he made to a dead woman in 1994. Olivia leaned against the glass. He knew, she said. He knew, and he called me Mrs. Bennett. He never called me Carter. Not once, in 6 years. I thought he just forgot. Arthur Reyes has never forgotten anything in his life. Olivia laughed, wet and ragged. Oh my God! Sit down, Olivia. There's more. There's a great deal more. And this is the part where you stop crying, because in about 90 seconds, you're going to need to think. Olivia came back to the table. She picked up her chair herself. She sat. Go, she said. Victoria opened the second box. Your husband's company, she said. Carter Development Group, founded 6 years ago, headquartered at 900 West Randolph floors 8 and 9. I know where his office is. Do you know who his landlord is? Olivia stared at her. No. Yes, you do, Victoria said. You just said it out loud 4 minutes ago. Olivia put her hands over her face. The conference center, Victoria said, and she kept going flat, relentless, laying pages down one after another like cards. The one he does his investor days in, ours. The parking structure his crews use on the Fulton project, ours. The land parcel his entire Kensington deal is built on, the deal he told you was eating him alive. The deal you sat up until 4 in the morning fixing that parcel is held in a trust whose sole beneficiary is sitting in that chair. Stop. Harold Reese. Olivia's head came up. Harold Reese, Victoria said, was your grandmother's banker for 29 years. He was at her funeral. He was a pallbearer, Olivia. He carried her. No. He said he met Daniel at a conference. Daniel said, Harold Reese wrote your husband a check for $2 million 11 days after you brought that man to a dinner and introduced him as yours. Olivia felt the room tilt. He did it for me. He did it for Evelyn, Victoria said, which is the same thing. Does Daniel know? Daniel, Victoria said, believes he charmed a rich old man at a cocktail party. He has told that story on 2 podcasts. Olivia laughed. It came out of her like a hiccup. Oh, God. For 6 years, Victoria said, your husband has been building an empire on your family's land with your family's money in your family's buildings and telling everyone in this city that he did it alone. And this morning, he told you that you stopped growing. Olivia put her head down on the table. She stayed there for a long moment. Then she sat up, and her face had changed, and Victoria Reynolds noticed it and made a private note of the exact time and 17. Victoria, Olivia said, I signed something. Victoria went very still. What did you sign? Divorce papers, this morning, in the kitchen. Tell me you didn't. He said it was fair. He said his attorney said it was more than fair, and I read it. I read every page. I'm not stupid. I read it. Olivia. I signed it in front of both of them, Olivia said. I asked her for a pen. I asked his girlfriend for a pen, and I signed it. Victoria stood up. For the first time all morning, Victoria Reynolds moved fast. She went to the door and opened it and said something short into the hallway, and a young man actually ran, and Olivia sat there with her heart going like a bird in a box. Is it bad? She said. Victoria, is it bad? Did I just... Victoria turned around, and Victoria Reynolds smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of a woman who has been waiting 31 years to do something and has just been handed the invitation on a silver tray. Olivia, she said, what did page 4 say? Olivia frowned. Page 4. You said you read every page. Page 4. What did it say? It said. Olivia's eyes moved. It said he retains the residence. He keeps the apartment. He said he needed a base of operations. How did he word it? What? How exactly did he word it, Olivia? This matters more than anything else that will happen to you this year. Olivia closed her eyes. 11 years of grading exams, 11 years of reading 400 bad arguments a semester and finding the crack in every one. She pulled the page up in her head, the font, the margins, the small tight type. Husband shall retain sole ownership of the marital residence, she said slowly, located at, and then the address, and then it said property being held in his name. She opened her eyes. Victoria was not moving at all. Say that last part again, Victoria said. Said property being held in his name. The silence went on for 4 full seconds. Olivia, Victoria said, your husband made a sworn representation of ownership in a legal instrument prepared by counsel, executed and witnessed regarding a 14-unit residential asset that he does not own, has never owned, has no interest in, and has never paid $1 toward. He thought he owned it. He did not check. He thought. He did not check, Victoria said, and her voice finally rose, and it was terrifying. That is the entire man in one sentence, Olivia. For 6 years he stood on your family's ground and never once looked down. Olivia's hands were flat on the table. What does that mean? She said. Legally. What does that mean? It means, Victoria said, that at 7:50 this morning your husband did not divorce you. Then what did he do? Victoria Reynolds leaned on the back of her chair. He signed a confession. Olivia sat absolutely still. Somewhere down the hall, a printer started. He can say it was a mistake, Olivia said. He can. He'll say it was clerical. He'll blame the attorney. He will absolutely try. So it's nothing. It is not nothing, Victoria said, because of what's in that folder next to it. What folder? Victoria reached into the box, and now for the first time all morning, Olivia saw the older woman hesitate. Victoria, I want you to understand something before I put this in front of you, Victoria said. Your grandmother was not a saint. She was a hard woman who did a hard thing to 2 generations of her own family because she thought it was mercy. I loved her. I fought with her for 31 years, and she did one thing that I begged her not to do." "What?" Victoria put a thin folder on the table. There was a photograph clipped to the front. Olivia looked at it, and her breath stopped. It was Daniel. Younger, 29, maybe 30, in a bad suit at a long table holding a glass of wine and laughing at something. And across the table from him in profile, silver-haired, unsmiling, watching him with an expression Olivia had seen on that face exactly twice in her life, was Evelyn Bennett. "No," Olivia said. "Yes. They never met. Victoria, they never met. She died before I." "June 14th, Victoria said. 2 months before she passed. You brought him to Oak Park for lunch. You sat on the porch." Olivia was shaking her head. "She was sick. She barely spoke. She spoke to me that night," Victoria said, "for 2 hours, on the telephone." "What did she say?" Victoria opened the folder. Inside was a single page in that slanted, elegant, unhurried hand. She said, Victoria read, "He asked me 9 questions in 3 hours. Not one of them was about her." Olivia made a sound. "She said," Victoria went on, "he asked what the house was worth. He asked twice. He asked what the property taxes were on the street. He asked whether I had a pension. He said the porch could be rented as a unit." "Stop," Olivia whispered. "She said that boy looked at my granddaughter the way a man looks at good weather, like it happened to him, like he earned it by being outside." Olivia had both hands over her face. She said, "I have watched him for 3 hours, and I know exactly what he is. And if I tell her she will marry him tomorrow to prove me wrong because she is mine and she is stubborn and she has been trying to be nobody's charity since she was 11 years old. Stop it. She said so. I am going to let her marry him." Olivia's head came up. Her face was destroyed. "What?" "I fought her," Victoria said. "Olivia, look at me. I fought her for 2 hours on that phone. I said, Evelyn, tell that girl. Tell her what she has let her stand on her own money and make a free choice. And your grandmother said no. She said, Vic, if I hand her $14 billion, she will never know if a single person in her life ever loved her. Not one, not for the rest of her days. And she said, I would rather she lose 10 years to a small man than lose 60 to the same doubt that killed her mother." Olivia was crying again, and she did not know when it had started. "She let me marry him. She let you find out. She could have saved me." "From what?" Victoria said. "From 9 years, or from the day you'd finally see him clearly and know all the way down that you saw it yourself, Olivia. She bet 10 years of your life on the certainty that you would eventually look at that man in the face and know. And if I hadn't, then the letter would have come on your 40th birthday," Victoria said, "and she would have been wrong, and she would have deserved it." Olivia sat there. Then slowly she reached into her coat, and she took out the envelope. Victoria's whole body changed. "Is that—" "It was under the closet floor," Olivia said. "I've had it for 11 years. You never opened it. She said to open it when somebody made me believe I had nothing." Olivia turned it over in her hands. "I was 11 when she gave it to me. I asked her how I'd know. She said, 'Oh, sweetheart, you'll know. It'll be somebody you love.'" Victoria put her hand over her mouth. "Open it," she said. Olivia looked at the envelope for a long moment. Then she said, "No, Olivia, not yet." "Why on earth not?" Olivia Bennett looked up at her grandmother's attorney, and there was something in her face at 10:31 in the morning that had not been there at 7:45, and Victoria Reynolds saw it arrive. "Because she wrote it for the worst day of my life," Olivia said, "and I want to be sure I've had it yet." Victoria stared at her. Then she sat down slowly and she said, "Dear God, you are her." "What do I do?" Olivia said. "Victoria, tell me what I do. Because I have a suitcase, and I don't have a car, and my husband has my keys, and apparently I own the sky, and I don't know how to." "Nothing," Victoria said. "Nothing. Today you do nothing. Today you eat something and you sleep somewhere, and you let me file 2 documents that take 4 minutes." "What documents?" Victoria smiled again. "A notice of lease review," she said, "and a request for verification of ownership on the property named in Section 4 of your divorce agreement." Olivia's eyes came up. That's it? That's all you're going to do? Olivia, Victoria said, I don't have to do anything. That's the thing about a man who builds on someone else's ground. You don't have to push him. You just have to stop holding him up, and then you have to stand back because it makes a noise. The door opened. The young man came in fast with a printout, and he looked at Victoria and not at Olivia, and he said, Ma'am, I ran it. The name from the settlement witness line. And there's a hit. Victoria took the page. She read it. And Olivia watched Victoria Reynolds's face do something it had not done all morning, and her stomach turned to water. What? Olivia said. What is it? You said his girlfriend gave you the pen, Victoria said slowly. Madison Blake. Miss Bennett. Victoria set the page down. 6 weeks ago, a title inquiry was submitted on your building, a formal one, asking who owns it. By who? By an associate at a firm on the 12th floor of the tower directly across the street from your husband's office, Victoria said. The inquiry is signed. Olivia could not feel her hands. Signed by who? Victoria turned the page around, and Olivia Bennett read the name Madison Blake in print, dated 6 weeks before a woman had walked into her kitchen wearing her grandmother's coat and told her that Daniel deserved someone who could help him reach the next level. She knew, Olivia said. She asked. She knew before he did. Olivia. She knew. And Olivia stood up, and her vision went strange at the edges, gray and swimming, and she put her hand out for the table and missed it, and Victoria Reynolds caught her by both arms and lowered her into the chair, saying her name, and the last thing Olivia thought before the room came back was that she had not eaten since Tuesday night, and that her body had been telling her something for 11 days that she had been too busy losing her marriage to hear. Olivia took the phone. She read it standing up at 10:21 in the morning in a hallway with a water cooler humming behind her, and Victoria Reynolds watched her face and counted. 4 seconds. I don't understand this, Olivia said. Yes, you do. Victoria, this says my name. Yes. This says Olivia Evelyn Bennett individually. Yes. She's suing me. She's suing you, Victoria said. And Bennett Legacy Holdings and Meridian Property Partners and 4 entities you have never heard of. And she filed it at 9:51 this morning, which is 11 minutes before you walked into that room, which means she knew exactly what time your husband's meeting was. Olivia's thumb was shaking on the screen. For what? She said. Victoria, for what? I never met her before Tuesday. I said 11 words to her. Victoria took the phone back. Fraud, she said. What concealment of beneficial ownership? 10 years of it. She's alleging that Bennett Legacy Holdings deliberately hid its principal behind a shell structure in order to do business with parties who did not know who they were dealing with, and that you personally knowingly benefited from that concealment. That's insane. It's not insane, it's clever and it's ugly, and it was written by someone who had 6 weeks. 6 weeks. 6 weeks, Victoria said. She pulled that title in February. She's been building this since February. Olivia, the divorce isn't the case. It was never the case. The divorce is the exhibit. Olivia leaned against the wall. Say that again. Page 4, Victoria said. Husband shall retain sole ownership of the marital residence, said property being held in his name, signed by you, witnessed, executed at approximately 7:55 in the morning on Tuesday. I told you, he wrote that. His attorney wrote that. Did he? Olivia stopped. What? Olivia, Victoria said, who handed you the pen? At 10:24 in the morning, Olivia Bennett went perfectly still in a hallway on the 22nd floor. She saw it. She saw Madison Blake's hand coming out of her purse. She saw the pen. She felt again the small, cold touch of a stranger's fingers, and the flinch, and the way the woman had stood by the door for 40 minutes, without sitting down, without taking off the coat, without doing one single thing except watch. She wasn't there for him, Olivia whispered. No, she was there to watch me sign. She was there to watch you sign a document, Victoria said, that misstates the ownership of a 14-unit building in front of a witness in your own handwriting. If you knew you owned that building on Tuesday morning, Olivia, then you executed a false instrument. That's not a divorce anymore. That's a signature on a lie." "But I didn't know." "I know." "Victoria, I didn't know." "I know," Victoria said. "Now prove it." The door opened behind them. Ferris came out first, fast, with his phone already at his ear, and a look on his face like a man who had just been told his car was in the lake. He did not look at Olivia. He went down the hall and around the corner, and they heard his voice go up and then stop. Then Daniel came out. He was holding his own phone. "Olivia," he said. "Not now." "Olivia." "Daniel, not now." "She's suing you." Olivia turned around. "Yes, Daniel," she said. "Thank you. I'd have never known." "No, listen." He came toward her, and Victoria stepped between them without appearing to move. "Listen to me. She's not suing me." "I'm aware." "She's not suing me," Daniel said again, and there was something wrong with his voice, something wild. "And I'm the one who left. I'm the one who did it. I'm the one who signed page 4, and she's not Olivia. My name isn't in it. My name is in it 3 times, and all 3 times I'm a witness." Victoria's head turned. "Say that again," she said. "I'm a witness," Daniel said. "In her filing, not a defendant. She named me as a witness." At 10:27, Victoria Reynolds started to laugh. It was quiet, and it was awful, and Daniel took a step back from it. "Oh, she's good," Victoria said. "She's very, very good." "What?" Olivia said. "He's not a defendant because he has nothing," Victoria said. "Nothing worth taking. His company sits on your land. His investors are already halfway out the door. There is no money in Daniel Carter Olivia. There never was. He's a man with a lease." She looked at Daniel with something close to pity. "You were never the client's son. You were the way in." Daniel's face did something terrible. "That's not," he said. "No." "How much equity did you give her?" "What?" "In February," Victoria said. "You gave her equity in February, didn't you? Instead of fees. She told you her firm would defer the invoice and take points, and you thought that meant she believed in you." Daniel opened his mouth. Nothing came out. "How much?" Victoria said. 4%, Daniel said. Olivia closed her eyes. 4% of nothing, Victoria said. Unless what? Unless the parent of Carter Development turns out to be a $14 billion estate, Victoria said. Then 4% of nothing becomes 4% of everything. That's the case, Olivia. That's the whole case. She's not claiming you defrauded her. She's claiming you were the silent principal of your husband's company. That everything he built was really yours, funded by you, housed by you, brokered by you. And if she wins that, she doesn't own 4% of Daniel. Olivia opened her eyes. She owns 4% of me, she said. Yes. The hallway was very quiet. Daniel put his hand on the wall. I brought her into your kitchen, he said. Nobody answered him. I brought her, Daniel said, into your kitchen, in your coat, and I stood there and I said, she's an upgrade. And Olivia Bennett, 34 years old, looked at her husband and did not say a single word, because there was not one that would have made it worse, and there was not one that would have made it better. And after 9 years, she finally had nothing to say to him at all. At 1 p.m, the first subpoena went out. Victoria's paralegal brought it in and set it on the table, and Olivia read the name and stood up so fast the chair went over for the second time in a week. No. Olivia. No, absolutely not. Sit down. Arthur Reyes is 71 years old, Olivia said. He has a granddaughter. He has a bad knee, Victoria. He sits on a stool behind that desk because he can't stand for 8 hours anymore, and he thinks nobody notices. And she's going to put him in a room and ask him questions for 6 hours. Yes. Why? Because he's the only witness who can say what you knew, Victoria said. He's been at that desk for 22 years. If you knew he knew. If he says the wrong thing or the confused thing or the loyal thing, Olivia, if he says one sentence like, oh, Mrs. Bennett always knew that building was hers, you lose. Olivia sat down slowly. He'd never say that. He'd never mean to say it, Victoria said. That's not the same. Madison Blake will spend 3 hours being kind to that old man. She'll ask about his granddaughter. She'll ask what he called you. Olivia's head came up. He called me Mrs. Bennet. Yes. For 6 years. Yes, Victoria said. And she's going to ask him why. Olivia put her hands over her face. Oh, God. Now you see it. He was protecting me. And a good attorney can make protection look exactly like a conspiracy, Victoria said. 22 years, ma'am. A doorman who never once used your legal married name, who signed for your packages, who knew the plaque said Catherine. Olivia, on paper, that man looks like a lookout. Then don't put him in the room. I don't have that power. She subpoenaed him. It went to the building at 11:40. Olivia stood up. Where are you going? Victoria said. To see him. Absolutely not. Victoria. You are the defendant in an action alleging you concealed ownership and coordinated witnesses, Victoria said. If you walk into that lobby today and speak to Arthur Reyes for 11 seconds, she wins. Not the case. All of it. Every dollar. Do you understand me? You cannot go near him. Olivia stood in the middle of the room with her fists closed. He held the door for me, she said. Tuesday. I was carrying a suitcase and I was crying and he got me a cab and he almost... Victoria, he almost broke a promise he made to a dead woman to help me. And I can't even call him... No. I can't even say thank you. No. Olivia laughed. It came out broken. That's her whole plan, isn't it? She said. Not the money. She's going to take everyone, one by one. Everyone who ever loved me is going to end up in a room. Victoria did not answer, which was an answer. At 4:15 on Wednesday, Madison Blake came in person. She did not have to. She could have sent anyone. She came anyway, and she sat down across the long table in a gray suit, and she smiled at Olivia, the way you smile at someone in an elevator. Miss Bennet. Don't talk to my client, Victoria said. I'm not talking to your client. I'm talking to the room. Madison. Olivia's voice was flat. Why? Olivia, Victoria said. No, I want to hear it. She came here to say it. Let her say it. Madison folded her hands. All right, she said, because it was there. Excuse me? You want a speech? Madison said. Everybody wants a speech. There isn't one. I'm 31 months from partner. I'm 11 years into a career where I have done nothing but read title chains for men who don't read anything, and in February I read one and I found a door and it was open and nobody had walked through it in 10 years. You're 27, Olivia said. Madison's eyes moved, just slightly. You're 31, Olivia said slowly. Aren't you? That's not relevant. He said 27, Olivia said. In the kitchen he said 27, and I believed him because he believed it, because you told him 27, because a man like Daniel needs to feel like he's holding a young thing. Miss Bennet. You built a person, Olivia said, for him. You built exactly the woman he'd throw me out for. The room got very quiet. Madison's chin lifted about a quarter inch. He threw you out on his own, she said. I want that on the record between us since we're being honest. I never once told that man to do it. Not one time. He decided that in his own chest. All I did was be in the room while he decided. Olivia felt something go cold in her stomach, because it was true. You wore my grandmother's coat, she said. He gave it to me. You knew what it was. I knew he didn't know what it was, Madison said. That's different. That's the only interesting thing about your husband, Miss Bennet. He hands people things that aren't his, and he never once wonders where they came from. He did it with the coat. He did it with the building. He did it with your entire life. Victoria said, We're done. One more. We are done, counselor. Madison stood up. She picked up her bag. Then she said to Olivia in a voice so reasonable it was obscene, Ask her what happens to your doorman when he tells the truth. Olivia's head snapped up. What? He's 71, Madison said. He's got a stool behind that desk he thinks nobody's noticed. And when he sits down in that room and swears an oath, he's going to have to say under penalty either that he knew and never told you, which makes him a liar to your face for 22 years, or that he didn't know, which he can't say because he did. She shouldered the bag. Either way, that old man leaves that room having been made into something. I didn't do that. Your grandmother did that. She's the one who made him promise. And she left. At 4:31, Olivia Bennet threw a glass of water against a conference room wall. Victoria let her. Then she said, "Sit down and I'll tell you how we win." "How?" "Coupons." Olivia stared at her. "What?" "You have a folder in your purse," Victoria said. "You told me on Tuesday. A folder of coupons. Do you still have it?" "Yes." "You drove a 9-year-old Corolla?" "Yes." "You bought your clothes at an outlet mall in Rosemont. You cut your own hair for 4 years. You have a scholarship essay from age 17, sitting in a university archive, in which you describe eating dinner off a card table." Victoria leaned forward. "Olivia, she has a theory. I have a life. 11 years of a woman living like she had nothing, every receipt, every tax return. Every year you filed a return so small that no reasonable human being who owned $14 billion could possibly have filed it." Olivia breathed out. "That's it." "That's most of it," Victoria said. "Then there's the phone log." "What phone log?" "Mine," Victoria said. "I called you at 8:51 on Tuesday morning. That call is the first contact between this office and you in 11 years. It's in the carrier record. It's in my billing. It's in the log of a firm that has been audited by the state of Illinois 9 times. You signed page 4 at 7:55. 56 minutes. 56 minutes, Victoria said. "She has to prove you knew for 10 years. I have to prove you found out in 56 minutes. Olivia, I do not lose that." Olivia let herself breathe for the first time in 6 hours. Then Victoria said, "And then there's the envelope." Olivia went still. "No. Olivia, no." "That envelope was sealed in 1999, Victoria said. "The glue can be dated, the paper can be dated, the ink can be dated. A sealed letter physically in your possession for 11 years never opened, addressed in your grandmother's hand, reading open this, when someone makes you believe you have nothing." She put her hand on the table. "Do you understand what that is? That is not evidence. That is the whole case in one object. A jury sees that envelope and the case ends. It ends in the room." Olivia's hand went to her coat pocket. "No," she said. "Olivia, that's not evidence. It is exactly evidence." "It's a letter from my grandmother," Olivia shouted. "It's the last thing she ever... Victoria, it's the last thing she ever said to me, and it's been under a floorboard for 11 years, and I'm not going to open it in a room full of lawyers and have some man in a bad tie read it out loud, and then put a sticker on it that says Exhibit 14. It would end this. I don't care. It would end this in one afternoon. I don't care." Victoria's voice went hard. "You have a $14 billion estate, 4,000 tenants, and 1,100 employees exposed to a fraud allegation, and you're telling me you'd rather bleed for 18 months than let a stranger read your grandmother's mail?" "Yes." "Why?" And Olivia said, "Because she gave me one thing that was mine." The room went silent. "One thing," Olivia said. "Victoria, do you understand? Everything else was arranged. The apartment was arranged. The realtor worked for you. The rent was fake. Harold's check was for her. My whole life was a room she built, and I didn't know I was in it. And I'm not angry. I understand why, but there is exactly one thing in this entire world that is mine, and it is that envelope, and I have not opened it, because it was the only choice I had left that nobody made for me." Victoria Reynolds sat back slowly. "Dear God," she said. "So no." "All right. All right. All right," Victoria said. "Then we do it the long way, and it's going to hurt." At 9 in the morning on Thursday, Daniel Carter's company lost its second investor in 4 days. At 11, it lost its third. At 2:15, Ellis Dorn walked into Daniel's office without knocking for the second time in his life and said, "They're calling the Kensington note." Daniel did not look up. "Daniel, I heard you. Do you understand what that means?" "It means it's over," Daniel said. "Yes, Ellis. I've been doing this 6 years. I know what a call is." Ellis stood there. Then he said, "There's a woman on line 2. "I'm not taking calls." "It's Victoria Reynolds." Daniel's head came up. At 2:19, Victoria Reynolds said without one word of preamble, "Mr. Carter, on the 12th of February, did Madison Blake give you a memorandum identifying Bennett Legacy Holdings as your ground lessor?" Daniel closed his eyes. "Yes." "In writing?" "Yes." "Do you have it?" "Yes." Is her name on it? It's on the header, Daniel said. It's on every page. She footered every page. She footered every page and dated it. Mr. Carter, Victoria said, why would an attorney building a case that she discovered concealment in June footer and date a memorandum proving she discovered it in February? Daniel opened his eyes. Because she thought I'd never find it, he said. It's in a folder in my office. She thought I'd never open the folder. Because in 6 years I never opened one. The line was silent. Mr. Carter? I know what you want. Do you? You want me to sit in a room and swear that my wife didn't know, Daniel said. You want me to sit there and say under oath that for 9 years I lived with a woman who thought she was poor. And you want me to say why I know that. And the why is the part that ends me. Yes, because I'll have to say it. Yes. I'll have to sit in front of 6 lawyers and a court reporter and say out loud that I threw my wife out of an apartment I never checked the deed on, that I never read a document in 6 years, that I gave 4% of my company to a woman who had already found the thing I didn't know existed. Daniel's voice cracked. There is no version of that room where I walk out with a company. No, Victoria said, there isn't. So why would I do it? And Victoria Reynolds said, I have no idea, Mr. Carter. That's rather the point of the question. She hung up. The deposition was Monday at 9. Daniel came alone. Ferris had withdrawn on Friday. There was a young man from a different firm who sat beside him and said almost nothing all day, and Daniel Carter sat down at a long table with a court reporter to his left and Madison Blake's counsel across from him, and at 9:04 he was sworn. Olivia was not in the room. Victoria had refused. Absolutely, immovably refused, and Olivia had fought her for 20 minutes and lost, and she sat instead in an office down the hall, with a cup of tea going cold and a folded photograph in her pocket, listening to nothing for 5 hours and 40 minutes. Inside at 9:11, Madison's counsel said, Mr. Carter, when did you first learn that Bennett Legacy Holdings owned your ground lease? March 20th. And your wife? Daniel looked at him. My wife what? When did your wife learn? March 17th, Daniel said, at about 9:30 in the morning. You're certain? I'm certain. How could you possibly be certain, Mr. Carter? And Daniel Carter said, because at 7:55 that morning I was standing in her kitchen telling her she'd be taken care of, and she asked me for a pen. The court reporter's hands did not stop. Mr. Carter, she asked me for a pen, Daniel said, and I didn't have one, and your client gave her one out of her purse, and my wife signed a document giving up a $14 billion building, and then she went upstairs and packed 1 suitcase, and she took 2 sweaters and a photograph of 2 dead women, and she left. That's how I know. Mr. Carter, please answer the question as... That is the answer, Daniel said. At 11:40, they put the February memorandum in front of him. Do you recognize this document? Yes. Did you read it? Daniel looked at the page for a long moment. Then he said, no. Excuse me. No, I didn't read it. It was in a folder on my desk for 5 weeks, and then it went in a drawer. Mr. Carter, are you testifying that you received a memorandum identifying a material risk to 4 of your 6 primary assets, and you did not read it? Yes. Why? And Daniel Carter, 38 years old in a suit that no longer fit him because he had lost 11 pounds in 3 weeks, said, because I don't read things. I have people read them and tell me the good part. My wife read them for 6 years, and I never once said thank you. And when she was gone, I gave the job to your client, and your client told me the good part, and the good part was a lie. At 1:15, they asked him about the coat. At 2:10, they asked him whether he had ever discussed his wife's grandmother with anyone. At 3:40, Madison's counsel said, Mr. Carter, isn't it true that you and your wife coordinated this entire divorce in order to shield the Bennett estate from creditors? Daniel laughed. He laughed until the court reporter looked up. Mr. Carter? You've never met her, Daniel said. Sir, you've never met that woman, so I'm going to tell you something for free, Daniel said. Olivia Bennett could not coordinate a lie if you paid her. She's the most honest person I've ever been in a room with, and I couldn't stand it. Do you understand? That's what I left. I didn't leave because she stopped growing. I left because she was in my house, and I couldn't tell one single lie in front of her without her face doing the thing it does. The room was silent. That's not a question, Mr. Carter. No, Daniel said. It's an answer to a different one. At 4:46, they took the last break of the day, and Daniel Carter walked out into a hallway and put his hand flat on the wall and stood there breathing. And Olivia was at the end of it. She had come out of the office. She was not supposed to. Victoria was going to be furious, and Olivia had walked out anyway because 5 hours and 40 minutes is a long time. They looked at each other for a moment. "You didn't have to do that," she said. "Yes, I did." "Daniel, your company." "There's no company," he said. "There hasn't been a company since Friday. There's a lease and a note and 41 people I have to tell on Wednesday." Olivia didn't say anything. "I keep waiting to feel like a good man," Daniel said. "In there, I kept waiting. I thought there'd be a second where it felt like. There isn't. No. There won't be." "No," he said. "I know." He rubbed his face with both hands. "Harold said something to me," he said. "In Oak Park. He said you looked at a woman who thought she was nothing, and you agreed with her." He laughed once, wetly. 9 years. That's the whole 9 years in one sentence. A 79-year-old man with a bag of frozen peas said it better than I could say it in 9 years. "Daniel." "I'm going," he said. I wanted to say, I'm going." He pushed off the wall, and Olivia reached into her pocket for a tissue because her eyes had gone and something came out with it. A small square of folded paper. It hit the floor face up. Daniel looked down. He stopped. He stood absolutely still, and Olivia saw him see it, and she watched a man's entire face come apart in real time at 4:49 in the afternoon. Because there is no mistaking it. There is not one person alive who has ever mistaken that gray shape for anything else. Daniel's mouth moved. No sound came out. He got down on one knee in a law firm hallway slowly like an old man and picked it up and looked at it and looked up at his wife. And Olivia Bennett looked back at him and did not reach for it. 9 weeks, she said. Daniel Carter stayed on one knee for a long time. 9 weeks, he said. Yes. 9 weeks is... January, Olivia said. He did not move. January, he repeated. The week you had the flu, Olivia said. The week I slept on the floor next to the bed and you put your head on my shoulder in the taxi and said, you didn't know what you'd do without me. She held out her hand. Give it back, please. He didn't. He looked at the little gray square in his fingers, like a man reading a language he had been told his whole life he would never need. Is it? He said. Don't. Olivia, is it mine? And she said, that's the first question you've asked me in 6 years that you actually wanted the answer to. His face broke. Please. Yes, Olivia said. It's yours. He put his other hand over his mouth. At 4:52 in the afternoon, in a hallway outside a deposition room, Daniel Carter made a sound that 2 paralegals heard through a closed door and never repeated to anyone. Give it back, Olivia said. He held it out. She took it. She folded it once along the crease that was already there and put it back in her coat pocket, and her hand stayed in the pocket. How long have you known? He said. 3 weeks. 3. I found out Tuesday, Olivia said. The same Tuesday. A doctor named Priya Raman asked me when I'd last eaten, and I couldn't answer, and then she asked me a different question, and I did the math standing up in a conference room. Daniel got to his feet slowly. Tuesday, he said. You found out on Tuesday. You found out about the money on Tuesday and the baby on Tuesday. Yes, in one morning. In about 90 minutes, Olivia said. He laughed. It was a terrible sound. And you didn't call me. Olivia looked at him, and Daniel heard it before she said it, and closed his eyes. No, he said. Don't. I know. I know what I said. You said I stopped growing, Olivia said. Olivia. You said it at 7:50 in the morning, and I was 9 weeks pregnant standing in a kitchen making you coffee, and I didn't know, Daniel, that's the part I want you to hold. I didn't know. So I can't even give you the satisfaction of thinking I kept it from you. There was nothing to keep. There was just a woman with a mug in each hand. Daniel put his back against the wall and slid down at about 4 inches and stopped. I want, he said. I know. I want to be. I know. Don't tell me no yet, he said. Please, just don't say it today. I'll take anything. I'll take a Saturday. I'll take an hour on a Saturday for the rest of my life. I'll take supervised. I'll take a room with a woman with a clipboard in it. I don't care. Just don't say no today, because if you say it today, I will hear it every day forever. Olivia stood there, and she wanted God. She wanted to be cruel. It sat in her chest, fully formed 3 sentences, and every one of them was true, and every one of them would have gone in like a nail. She didn't say them, not because she was better than that, because she was 9 weeks pregnant, and she was going to have to explain this man to a person someday. I'm not going to answer that today, she said. That's not a no. It's not a yes. Okay, Daniel said. Okay. At the end of the hall, Victoria Reynolds appeared, and Olivia turned around, and Victoria's face was carved out of granite. You were told to stay in the office. Yes. Olivia. Victoria, I know. Do you understand what you just did? You just had a private conversation with a witness in an active proceeding in a hallway 11 feet from opposing counsel's conference room. Then subpoena me, Olivia said. I'll tell them exactly what we said. I've got nothing to hide. That's the whole point. That's been the whole point since the beginning, and nobody in this building can hear it. Victoria's jaw moved. Then she said, Mr. Carter, go home. Daniel went. He stopped once at the elevator and looked back down the hall, and Olivia did not look up, and he got in and the doors closed, and that was the last time Daniel Carter ever saw his wife as his wife. At 9 a.m. on Wednesday, Arthur Reyes sat down in a deposition room in a suit that had been bought for his son's wedding in 1987. He had a thermos with him. He put it on the table like a man planting a flag. Olivia was not in this building. Victoria had made her promise on the phone at 6 a.m, made her say it out loud, and Olivia had said the words and then had spent the next 4 hours walking in a circle around a hotel room with her hand on her stomach. Madison Blake's counsel was a man named Whitfield, who had been doing this for 22 years and had a voice like a good radio. He was kind to Arthur for 40 minutes. He asked about the knee. He asked about the granddaughter. He asked how many packages a day, and Arthur said on average 61, and Whitfield laughed, and Arthur laughed, and Victoria Reynolds sat 2 chairs away and did not move a muscle. At 9:43, Whitfield said, Mr. Reyes, in the 6 years Mrs. Carter lived in your building, what did you call her? Arthur said, Mrs. Bennett. Always. Never Mrs. Carter. No, sir. Why not? And Victoria Reynolds felt the whole case tilt. Arthur Reyes picked up his thermos. He unscrewed the cap. He poured about an inch of coffee and did not drink it. Then he said, because that's what her grandmother told me to call her. The room got very still. Her grandmother told you? Yes, sir. When? 1994, Arthur said. In the lobby, September. I was 49 years old and I'd been there 2 years, and Mrs. Bennett came in and she said, Arthur, I'm going to name this building after my daughter, and there's going to be a girl in it someday, and when she comes, you call her Bennett, not whatever she's calling herself. Bennett. And you agreed? Yes, sir. For 22 years. Yes, sir. Mr. Reyes. Whitfield leaned in, and his voice got gentler, and Victoria's hand tightened on her pen. Did Olivia Bennett know that her family owned that building? Arthur looked at him. No, sir. How do you know that? Because of the mail, Arthur said. Whitfield paused. I'm sorry. The mail, Arthur said. Every October, the building sends out a letter about the assessment. Every unit gets one. 14 units, 14 letters. I put them in the boxes myself. 6 years, that's 36 letters. He put the cap back on the thermos, and every October, for 6 years, that girl came down, and she stood at my desk, and she opened hers, and she read it, and she said, Arthur, is this going up again? And I said, yes, ma'am. And she said, well, and she put it in her purse. Whitfield said nothing. She's an owner, Arthur said. Sir, she's the owner of the whole building. And she asked me every October, standing right there in front of me, whether her own assessment was going up. And I lied to her face 6 times because I promised a dead woman I would. He looked at the table. You want to know how I know she didn't know? I know because I watched her worry about $91 a month in a building she owned. 6 years. $91. The court reporter's hands kept going. And then this March, Arthur said. A man took her keys out of her hand in my lobby and she said thank you. Whitfield sat back. Mr. Reyes. She said thank you, Arthur said. That's what I've got. That's what I came here to say, and you can ask me for 6 hours, and it's not going to change, sir. That girl said thank you to a man who was throwing her out of her own building because she thought she was nothing, because we all made sure of it, and I'm the one who held the door. The old man's voice went then. He put his hand over his eyes. I'd like a minute, he said. Take 10, Whitfield said. At 11:20 on Wednesday morning, Victoria Reynolds walked out into a hallway and called Olivia and said 4 words. It's over. He held. Olivia sat down on the floor of a hotel room. Say it again. He held, Victoria said. Olivia, he did better than hold. He gave them the assessment letters. The what? 36 letters, 6 years, every October. He put them in your box and you came down and asked him if the assessment was going up. Victoria's voice did something Olivia had never heard it do. Do you understand what that is? That's not testimony. That's an old man describing in detail a woman worrying about $91 a month in front of a court reporter, and there is no lawyer alive who can make that sound like a conspiracy. Olivia had both hands over her face. $91, she said. $91. Victoria, I have that letter. I have last October's in my purse. It's in the folder. It's in the folder with the coupons. The line was silent for 4 full seconds. Then Victoria Reynolds said in a voice of pure, undisguised joy, Olivia, do not move. Do not touch that purse. I am sending someone. Madison Blake dismissed her action at 2:15 on Friday afternoon. No press release, no statement. A 1-page filing voluntary, without prejudice, which meant she reserved the right to bring it again, and everyone in the room knew she never would. Victoria brought the page in and set it on the table. Olivia read it. That's it. That's it. She just stops. She's an associate 31 months from partner, Victoria said. She got a look at Arthur Reyes on the transcript, and she understood something. If that man sits in a witness box in front of 12 people from this city and cries about $91 a month, she doesn't lose a case. She loses a career. Nobody in Chicago hires the woman who made a 71-year-old doorman cry over a widow's granddaughter. Olivia sat with the page in her hands. I want to be happy, she said. But she was right about one thing. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Which thing? He threw me out on his own, Olivia said. She said that in this room. She said I never told that man to do it. He decided it in his own chest. All I did was be in the room while he decided. And Victoria, that's true. That's the true part. I've been trying to hate her for 4 weeks and I can't get it to hold because she didn't do it. She just showed up and found a man who was already like that. Victoria sat down. Do you want to know what happens to her? No. Olivia. No, Olivia said. I don't. I'm not saying that to be noble. I'm saying it because I've got about 11 things left in me, and she's not getting one of them. Nothing happened to Madison Blake in the end. That was the part nobody in the story ever found satisfying. She did not go to prison. She was not disbarred. She left the firm in September by agreement and took a job in Denver, and she was good at it because she had always been good at it. And once a year for the rest of her life, somebody in a meeting would say the name Bennett and Madison Blake, would feel something move in her stomach, and would keep her face perfectly still. That was all. She did not get punished. She just did not get it. Daniel Carter told 41 people on a Wednesday. He did it himself in a room standing up, and he did not blame the market, and he did not blame the lender, and he did not blame his wife and Ellis Dorn, who had known him for 6 years, and had stopped respecting him for 4 of them, watched him do it, and thought, well, look at that, 4 years too late, and look at that. The company was gone by August. The Kensington parcel reverted. The office on Randolph got leased to a dental group. Somebody at a party told a story about Daniel Carter and everyone laughed, and the story was not even the true one. It was worse, it had gotten better in the telling, and that is what happens to a man's name in a city. He did not fight it. He got a job in December. Not a good one. Project manager for a firm in Elgin, $46,000 a year, reporting to a man 11 years younger than him. He took it. He showed up every day. And on the 9th of November at 4 in the morning, a nurse in a hospital on the north side handed Olivia Bennett a daughter, and Olivia looked at her and said out loud, before she had decided to, "Oh, there you are." She named her Catherine Evelyn Bennett. Catherine for a woman who had never been allowed to be ordinary. Evelyn for a woman who had made sure her granddaughter was. Daniel found out by text. That was Olivia's choice, and Victoria fought her on it, and Olivia said, "He gets a text. He doesn't get a room, not this one." The text said, "She's here. She's healthy. Her name is Catherine." He read it 11 times. He did not reply for 6 hours because everything he wrote was about him. Finally, he sent back, "Thank you for telling me." And that, Victoria Reynolds said later, was the first entirely selfless sentence Daniel Carter had produced in his adult life. At 2 in the afternoon on the 22nd of December, Olivia let him come, 1 hour, Victoria's office. A conference room with a couch in it, because Olivia had said, "I'm not doing this in a room with a clipboard in it. She's 6 weeks old. She doesn't need a witness." He came in and stopped in the doorway. "Sit down," Olivia said. He sat. She put the baby in his arms. Daniel Carter looked down at his daughter and made no sound at all, and Olivia watched him, and she thought, this is the man. This is the actual man. Underneath all of it, this was in there the whole time, and he never once let it out, because letting it out would have meant admitting somebody had given him something. "She's heavy," he said. 12 pounds. "That's heavy. It's average." "No," Daniel said. "It's heavy." He didn't look up. "Olivia, I have to say one thing and then I'll never say it again." "Say it." "I'm not going to ask for anything," he said. "Not money, not the apartment, I'm not going to ask for more days. I'm not going to write letters. I'm not going to show up. I'll take whatever you give me, and I will never ask for one thing more for the rest of my life. And I want you to know that's not nobility. It's arithmetic. I did the math. I've got exactly one thing left I can give her, and it's the guarantee that she never has to watch her mother argue with me." Olivia didn't say anything. "That's it," he said. "That's the whole speech. I practiced it in the car." And Olivia Bennett laughed. It surprised both of them. "I know," she said. "You always do." He looked up then. And for 1 second, they were two people who had known each other for 11 years. Then it passed. "Hour's up in 40 minutes, Olivia said. "Okay." He came back in March, and in June, and the following March, and the one after that. 4 times a year, an hour in a room, and he never once asked for a 5th. And after the 3rd year, Olivia made it 6 times. And after the 5th year, she made it a Saturday, a real one with a park in it. She never told him it was because he never asked. He never figured it out. That was the marriage in one sentence, and Victoria Reynolds said so at a dinner once, and Olivia had to leave the table. Bennett Legacy Holdings had 4,000 tenants. That was the number that would not let Olivia sleep. Not the 14 billion, the 4,000. "I don't know how to do this," she told Victoria in January, with a 9-week-old on her shoulder. "Victoria, I taught 19th century American literature. I have never run anything. I ran a syllabus." "You ran a company for 6 years, Victoria said. "I did not. You edited every investor deck, you rewrote the Series A, you reviewed the contracts, you made the introduction that funded the whole thing, and a man took the credit and you let him because you thought you were the wife." Victoria set down her cup. "Olivia, you have never once in your life been in a room you weren't running. You just always let somebody else stand up." Olivia stopped. "That's not." "It is exactly true, and you know it." "I was a professor." "You were a professor," Victoria said, "in a system that paid you $58,000 a year to produce 400 educated adults annually, and you were the best in your department, and you walked away from it in 11 days because a man said 18 months. You don't have a competence problem, you have a permission problem. And the woman who could have given you permission has been dead for 11 years, so you're going to have to do it yourself, which, and I say this with love, is exactly what she planned." Olivia sat there for a long moment with her hand on her daughter's back. Then she said, "Show me the buildings." It took 9 days. Not the towers. Olivia didn't care about the towers. She went to the 6th unit on Ashland first, the one her grandmother had bought in 1971 with a widow's death benefit and a library book about plumbing, and she stood on the sidewalk in the cold with a baby strapped to her chest and looked at it. The gutters were bad. The stairs were worse. "How long?" she said. Victoria checked. 11 years. Since anyone's looked at it," Victoria said. "Olivia, there's been a caretaker board for 11 years. It's been managed, not run. There's a difference. A managed asset gets its rent collected. It doesn't get its gutters." And Olivia Bennett stood there, and something happened in her chest that had not happened in 9 years. She got angry. Not sad, not scared. Angry. "There are people in there," she said. "Yes. There are people living in there right now, and the stairs are like that, and it's been 11 years. Yes. Because I didn't know. Yes." Olivia turned around. "Then that's it," she said. "That's the answer. Victoria, that's the answer to the whole thing." "What answer?" "To whether she was right," Olivia said. "I've been asking myself for 10 months whether she was right to lie to me, and there's no answer. There's never going to be an answer. And it doesn't matter because there are people on those stairs. She was right or she was wrong, and either way, somebody's grandmother has been going up those stairs for 11 years, and I own them." Victoria Reynolds looked at her and thought, "Oh, Evelyn, there she is. There she finally is. What do you want to do?" Victoria said. Olivia said, "Everything." It took 4 years. Not a foundation. Olivia hated that word. Everybody who ever hurt anybody in the city had a foundation with their name on it. She built a program instead, and it had a stupid, plain, deliberate name that a marketing firm begged her to change, and she refused. She called it the card table. Housing first. 1,200 units in the first 3 years at rents, calculated off a formula Olivia wrote herself on a legal pad at 2 in the morning while a baby slept on her chest. Then legal. Then the thing nobody funds, the thing that is not photogenic, the thing that does not go on a plaque. Financial education for women in the middle of a divorce, not after, during. "They come in and they don't know what a title is," Olivia said to a room of 40 people in the 2nd year. "They don't know if their name is on anything. They've been married 11 years and they cannot tell you what their household earns because he handles it, and they say that like it's a kindness. He handles it. I said that. For 9 years I said that sentence out loud to other women, and I thought I was being generous." She stopped. 40 people waited. "A man in this city told me I stopped growing," Olivia said. "And I want to tell you the truth about that morning. The worst part was not that he said it. The worst part is that for about 4 seconds, I believed him. 4 seconds. That's how long it took. 9 years of loving somebody, and it took 4 seconds for me to think, well, maybe he's right." She looked around the room. "That 4 seconds is what we're here to shorten," she said. "That's it. That's the whole program. I can't stop him from saying it. I can make sure she doesn't believe it." At the end, a woman in the back stood up and said, "Miss Bennett, how much of this is funded?" And Olivia said, "All of it. Forever. It's in the trust. It survives me. You cannot vote it out. You cannot buy it out. And when I'm dead, a lawyer will make sure of it because I've met her and she's terrifying." Victoria Reynolds, standing by the door, did not smile. But it was close. Arthur Reyes retired in the 5th year. He did not want to. He fought it. He was 76 years old, and he stood at that desk for 8 hours a day on a knee that had gone past pain into some other country. And when Olivia came to him about it, he got angry. Actually, angry the only time in 27 years. "Don't you do that," he said. "Don't you dare do that, Mrs. Bennett." "Arthur, I've been at this desk since I was 47 years old." "I know. Don't you pension me off like I'm a—" He stopped. His voice went, "Don't do that, please. Ma'am, I got nowhere to go. My wife's gone my son's in Phoenix, and I get up in the morning and I come here and there's people who need their packages." Olivia stood in the lobby of her own building and looked at an old man. Then she said, "Arthur, do you know what your title is?" "I'm the doorman." "No," she said. "You've been the head of resident relations for the Bennett portfolio for 4 years, since the day after the deposition." Arthur blinked. "That's not a real job." "It is now. There's 40 of you. 42 doors in this city with somebody behind them, and every single one of them was hired by a manager who never once asked them anything. Olivia put her hand on the desk. You've been doing that job for 27 years without the title. I'm not retiring you. I'm asking you to teach 40 people how to do the thing you did. What thing? Arthur, Olivia said. You called me Bennett for 6 years. The old man looked at her. That was a promise, ma'am. It was more than a promise, Olivia said. I want you to think about it. Every day for 6 years, one person in my life called me by my own name, and I thought it was a mistake, and it was the only thing holding the floor up. I didn't know it, but it was there. Every single day somebody said my name at me, and when the day came, I had one thing to stand on. Her voice went, and she let it. You did that, for 22 years on a bad knee, for free. Arthur Reyes put both hands on his desk. I promised her, he said. I know. She's been dead 11 years and I kept it. 16 now, Olivia said gently. It's been 16 years, Arthur. He nodded for a long time. Then he said, There's a stool back here. I sit on it. I never told anybody. I know about the stool, Olivia said. Everybody knows about the stool. Arthur, she said, everybody has always known about the stool. He laughed until he had to wipe his face. He took the job. He worked 5 more years sitting down, and 42 doormen in the city of Chicago learned to say a woman's name right. And when Arthur Reyes died at 83, there were 300 people at the funeral, and Olivia Bennett was in the front row with a 10-year-old holding her hand. She carried him. Front left, bad hip and all, because she owed him. The tower opened on a Thursday in April, 6 years after a man told his wife to leave. It was not the tallest building in Chicago. That was a lie the papers told later, and Olivia never bothered correcting because correcting it would have meant caring. It was the 4th tallest. It had her grandmother's name on it and 2 floors of it permanently in perpetuity, written into the ground lease itself, so that no future board could ever undo it, were the card table. Olivia stood in the lobby an hour before the ceremony, with a 6-year-old holding her hand. Mom! Yes? Whose building is this? Olivia looked down at her. Catherine Evelyn Bennett was 6 years old and small for her age, and she had her father's chin and her great-grandmother's eyes and a fierce, worrying, wonderful habit of asking one more question after everybody else had stopped. What do you think? Olivia said. I think it's yours. Why? Because your name's on the paper, Catherine said. In the car, on the folder, I saw it. Olivia crouched down. That's exactly right, she said. And I'm going to tell you something now, and you're 6, and you're not going to understand it for about 20 years, and I'm going to tell you anyway. Okay. Okay. There's a lot of money, Olivia said. Catherine nodded, unimpressed the way you nod at a fact about weather. And you're going to find out how much someday, Olivia said. But not today, and not next year. And when you're 12 and you ask me, I'm going to tell you. Not 11, 12. And I want you to know right now today at 6 that I'm going to tell you. Do you understand? I'm not going to hide it. I'm never going to hide it from you. You're going to know. Catherine frowned. Why are you telling me you'll tell me? And Olivia Bennett put her hand on her daughter's face and said, Because somebody didn't tell me, and she had her reasons, and her reasons were love, and they were good reasons, and I have spent 6 years deciding whether she was right. She breathed out. And I decided she was half right. She was right that you have to know what you're made of before you know what you're worth. And she was wrong that the only way to do that is to lie. So you're going to know what you're worth, and I'm going to spend 12 years making sure you know what you're made of first. And those are going to be the hardest 12 years of my life, and I'm going to do them anyway because I'm not doing the card table to you. Ami Saad, Catherine said, What's a card table? Ask me when you're 12. At 3 that afternoon, a reporter got to her. They always do. He was young and he was decent and he had done his homework, and he asked the question that 11 other people had asked her in 6 years, and he asked it better. Miss Bennett, do you regret hiding your wealth from your husband? And Olivia Bennett looked at him and said, I didn't hide my wealth. I didn't have any wealth. I was a woman with a coupon folder and a 9-year-old Corolla, and I want everybody to hear that, because there's a version of this story going around where I was some genius playing a long game, and that story is very flattering, and it is a lie. I didn't know. I found out at 9:34 in the morning, 56 minutes after my husband told me to leave. 56 minutes. The reporter said, "Then let me ask it the other way. Do you wish you'd known?" Olivia was quiet for a second. 300 people waited without knowing they were waiting. "For 9 years," she said, "I was married to a man who never asked me one question about my family that didn't start with 'so was there.' And on a Tuesday morning he told me I was worth nothing, and he meant it, and he had no reason to lie. Do you understand what that is? That's a free reading. That's an honest man telling you the truth about what he sees because there's nothing on the table." She stopped. "Most people never get that," she said. "Most people get told what they're worth by somebody who's already counted their money. I got told by a man who thought I had none. That's the most expensive thing anybody has ever given me, and it cost him everything he had. So that's a no." "That's a no," Olivia said. "I don't wish I'd known. I wish he'd asked." That night at 11:40 in an apartment on the 14th floor of a building called the Catherine Olivia Bennett sat on the floor of her closet. The board came up the same way it always had. She had never moved it. 6 years, 4,000 tenants, $14 billion, 1,200 units of housing, and she had never once moved that box because you don't move the thing that held the floor up. The envelope was inside, sealed, yellowed. Her grandmother's slanted, unhurried hand. "Open this when someone makes you believe you have nothing." Olivia sat with it for a long time. 6 years. Victoria had asked for it. Whitfield would have paid for it. There had been a Tuesday 4 years back at 2 in the morning when Olivia had held it over a kitchen sink with a lighter in her hand for 11 full seconds. She had not opened it. Not that Tuesday in March in a conference room when Victoria Reynolds told her it would end the case in one afternoon. Not the night Daniel's company died. Not the night Catherine was born, when she had wanted her grandmother in the room so badly she had said her name out loud to an empty hallway. Not once. Because it was for the worst day of her life, and Olivia Bennett had spent 6 years finding out something that she could not have been told, that nobody can be told, that has to be discovered by a person alone on the floor of a closet at 11:40 at night. She had already had the worst day of her life, and she had survived it before she ever knew there was $14 billion behind her. That was the whole thing. That was the entire actual only inheritance. Olivia turned the envelope over, and she opened it. The paper inside was 1 page. It was not long. Evelyn Bennett had never in her life used 2 sentences where one would do. It said, "My Olivia. If you are reading this, someone has finally done it. I am sorry. I have known since you were 11 that it would happen, and I could not stop it, and I did not try, and you may hate me for that, and you would be right, and I am dead, so you will have to hate me alone, which is the cruelest thing I have ever done to anybody. Here is what I want to tell you. I did not lie to you about the money. I lied to you about me. You think I was a poor woman who worked hard. I was a rich woman who let a child eat off a card table for 2 years to teach her something, and I have never once been sure it was worth it, not for 1 single day, and I have thought about that card table every night for 14 years. So I am not going to tell you that I was right. I am going to tell you what I know. Somebody has looked you in the face and told you that you are nothing, and you are still standing up because you are reading this and you had to stand up to get to the closet. You did that. Not my money. You have never had my money. You did not know it existed. Whatever you did this morning, whatever you said, however you got out of that room, you did it as a woman with nothing. And now nobody can ever take it away from you, including me. And that is the only thing in this world I own that I actually wanted to give you. The money is just money, sweetheart. It was always going to be yours. It would have been yours if you were cruel. It would have been yours if you were stupid. It would have been yours if you were your mother. You are not your mother. You are mine. Now go paint the porch. It has waited long enough. Olivia read it 3 times. Then she folded it and put it back in the envelope, and put the envelope in the box, and put the box back under the floor. And she sat there on the closet floor of a building she owned in a city where every tower had her family's fingerprints on it, and she cried for about 4 minutes hard, the way you cry when the last person who ever really saw you has been dead for 17 years and just spoke. Then she got up, because there was a 6-year-old asleep down the hall, and there were 4,000 people in her buildings, and there was a woman coming in on Monday morning with a coupon folder in her purse who did not know what a title was. She painted the porch in Oak Park that summer, herself, with her own hands on her knees with a 6-year-old handing her the brush and getting more paint on the dog than the wood, and it took 11 days and it looked honestly a little bad. Victoria said she could have hired someone. Olivia said that was not the point, and Victoria said, "I know I was testing you," and Olivia threw a rag at her. Daniel Carter came to Catherine's high school graduation 12 years later. He sat in the 11th row. He did not ask to sit closer. He wore a suit that was 6 years old, and he clapped until his hands hurt, and he cried behind his hand where nobody could see him, and when it was over, he shook his daughter's hand because she had once told him at 14 that she did not like hugs from him, and he had never once tried again. Catherine Evelyn Bennett hugged him anyway. "Dad," she said. "Yeah." "You never asked for anything." Daniel didn't say anything. "Mom told me," Catherine said. "She told me when I was 12. She sat me down and she told me all of it, the money, the coat, the apartment, the pen, all of it. She told me what you said in the kitchen, and she told me what you said in the deposition, and she didn't take one thing out." Daniel looked at the floor. "Okay," he said. "You want to know what she said at the end?" "No," Daniel said. "She said your father did one honest thing in his life, and it cost him everything he had, and he did it anyway, and I'm not going to let anybody tell you your father is nothing, because I have been the person somebody called nothing, and I'm not doing it to him." Daniel Carter put his hand over his eyes in a high school gymnasium and stood there. "She said that?" he said. "She said that." "Okay," he said. "Okay." Olivia was 30 feet away, and she saw it, and she did not come over, and that was the last mercy she had in her, and it was enough. She lived another 41 years. She never remarried, not because she was broken and not because she was waiting. She had a life, and there were people in it, and one of them lasted 11 years and was a good man who died in a hospital in Evanston with her hand on his face, and she grieved him properly and then went back to work. She just never again let one single person on this earth tell her what she was worth. That was the whole thing. That was the inheritance. The city said for years that Olivia Bennett was the woman who lost everything and got it back. The city was wrong. She never lost anything. At 7:45 on a Tuesday morning, a man looked at the richest woman in Chicago and told her she was worth nothing, and she believed him for 4 seconds, and then she stopped. Those 4 seconds were the last 4 seconds of the old life. Everything after them was hers.